The lies they told about you are unraveling. Not because you defended yourself, not because you fought back, not because you launched a campaign to clear your name. The lies are collapsing because lies have an expiration date, and time just called their bluff. They tried to destroy your character. They painted you as the villain. They twisted your words, distorted your actions, and manufactured a narrative so convincing that even people who knew you started to question what they thought they knew. They built an entire false reality around your name, and for a season, it seemed like that reality was winning. But something is happening right now that they never prepared for, something they never saw coming, something that's turning their entire scheme inside out and exposing it to the light. Their own truth is coming out, not your defense of yourself, their confession through consequence, not your explanation, their exposure through their own patterns. The same tactics they used against you, they're using against others. The same lies they told about you, they're telling about someone else. The same manipulation they weaponized to destroy your reputation is now the very thing destroying theirs. And people are starting to notice. People are starting to connect the dots. People are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, you weren't the problem. Maybe you were the target. Maybe you were telling the truth all along. This is the story of how truth doesn't just survive assassination attempts. Truth outlives them. Truth watches the lies eat themselves. Truth stands still while the liars trip over their own contradictions. They tried to bury you, but they forgot that seeds grow underground. They tried to silence you, but they forgot that truth doesn't need a microphone. They tried to erase you, but they forgot that character can't be destroyed by slander, only revealed by time. The vindication isn't coming from you, it's coming from them. Their own truth is dismantling the lies they built about you, one exposure at a time. Let's be honest about what happened. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a disagreement that got out of hand. This wasn't a conflict between two perspectives. This was a coordinated character assassination campaign designed to completely destroy your reputation, your credibility, and your future. They didn't just disagree with you. They demonized you. They didn't just tell their side of the story. They rewrote history entirely. They didn't just defend themselves. They made you the villain in a narrative you didn't even recognize. They studied you. They knew your vulnerabilities. They knew your past mistakes. They knew your insecurities. And they weaponized all of it. They took everything you ever trusted them with and turned it into ammunition. They took your transparency and called it instability. They took your passion and called it aggression. They took your boundaries and called it coldness. They recruited allies. They didn't fight alone. They built a team of people who would co-sign their lies, amplify their narrative, and attack you from multiple angles. Some of these people didn't even know you. They just believed the story they were sold. They became soldiers in a war they didn't understand, fighting for a cause built on fabrication. They controlled the narrative. They spoke first. They spoke loudest. They spoke most often. And in a world where perception often matters more than truth, they knew that whoever controls the story controls reality. So they flooded every space with their version of events until it became the only version people heard. And for a season, it worked. Your name became synonymous with the lies they told. Your character was reduced to the caricature they created. Your truth was drowned out by their volume. People who never met you believed they knew exactly who you were because the narrative was that strong, that coordinated, that convincing. But here's what they didn't calculate. Here's what they couldn't control. Here's what they forgot. in their rush to destroy you. Lies require maintenance. Truth requires nothing. Lies need constant reinforcement. Lies need new stories to cover old contradictions. Lies need energy, effort, and eventually more lies. But truth just sits there. Truth just exists. Truth just waits. And while they were working overtime to maintain their fabricated narrative, truth was quietly gathering evidence. Time was documenting their patterns. Reality was preparing to expose what performance tried to hide. The assassination campaign seemed successful, but it was only successful on the surface. Underneath, the foundation was cracking. The contradictions were piling up. The mask was slipping. And now the world is starting to see what you've known all along. They weren't telling the truth about you. They were revealing the truth about themselves. The character assassination wasn't just about damaging your reputation. It was about isolating you completely. They needed you alone. They needed you without support. They needed you without witnesses who could contradict their lies. So they built an isolation chamber around you, brick by brick, lie by lie. They poisoned relationships before you even knew they were at risk. They went to people you loved, people you trusted, people you thought would always have your back. And they planted seeds of doubt. They whispered concerns. They expressed worry. They framed their manipulation as care. I'm worried about them. Have you noticed they've been different lately? I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think something's wrong. I'm just concerned. I thought you should know. And those seeds grew. People started watching you differently. They started interpreting your actions through the lens of suspicion. They started pulling back without explanation. They started believing you were someone you never were, all because someone else told them a story designed to separate you from support. They made you look unstable to everyone who could have defended you. They framed your truth as delusion. They called your clarity confusion. They painted your strength as breakdown. They needed people to question your mental state so that when you tried to defend yourself, it would look like further evidence of instability. See? Look how they're acting. This just proves what I've been saying. They're not well. They need help. We can't trust what they're saying right now. It was brilliant in its cruelty. It was strategic in its evil. Because once they convinced people you were unreliable, anything you said, in your defense, would be dismissed as the ramblings of someone who couldn't be trusted. They turned your support system into surveillance. The people who used to be in your corner became informants reporting back to your attackers. The relationships that used to be safe became contaminated with doubt. The spaces that used to be refuge became battlegrounds. And in that isolation, they thought they had won. They thought that without support, without witnesses, without anyone willing to hear your side, you would simply disappear. You would fade into irrelevance. You would be forgotten while their version of you lived on as fact. But isolation did something they didn't expect. Isolation forced you to develop a level of internal strength you never knew you had. Isolation taught you that truth doesn't need an audience to remain true. Isolation showed you who you really were when everyone else's opinion was removed. They tried to isolate you into defeat. Instead, they isolated you into clarity. And now that clarity is about to become the very thing that exposes everything they tried to hide. Here's what happens with lies over time. They exhaust the liar. Because lies demand constant upkeep. Lies require you to remember what you said, who you said it to, and what version of the story each person heard. Lies force you to monitor your contradictions and create new lies to cover the old ones. Truth requires nothing. You say it once, and it stands forever. You live it consistently, and it proves itself. You don't have to remember anything, because you're not performing anything. You're just existing in reality. But they weren't existing in reality. They were managing a fictional narrative. And that management is exhausting. Watch what's happening to them now. They're tired. They're slipping. They're making mistakes. The story they told 6 months ago doesn't match the story they're telling now. The version they gave to one person contradicts the version they gave to another. The mask they wore so carefully is cracking under the weight of maintaining the performance. People are starting to notice inconsistencies. The lies are bumping into each other. The timeline doesn't add up. The details change depending on who's asking. And when people start to notice these contradictions, they start to question everything. Wait, didn't they say something different last time? I thought the story was… Hold on, that doesn't make sense. If that happened, then how could this have happened? Something's not adding up here. The exhaustion of maintaining lies is showing in their behavior. They're more defensive. They're more aggressive. They're more paranoid. Because when you're living in a house built on lies, you're constantly afraid of it collapsing. Every question feels like a threat. Every inquiry feels like an investigation. Every conversation requires performance. And performance is exhausting. Meanwhile, you're at peace. Not because everything is perfect, not because you've been publicly vindicated yet, but because you're living in truth. And truth creates internal rest. You don't have to remember what you said. You don't have to manage contradictions. You don't have to perform for anyone. That peace is evidence. That rest is proof. And the contrast between your peace and their panic is becoming visible to anyone willing to look closely. Lies are high maintenance. Truth is self-sustaining. And right now, their lies are requiring so much maintenance that the cracks are showing. The exhaustion is becoming obvious. The performance is becoming transparent. And when people see someone working that hard to maintain a story, they start to realize it's not a story. It's a construction. And constructions eventually crumble under their own weight. Here's the moment that changes everything. When people realize you weren't the first. When they discover you weren't the only one. When they connect the dots and see the pattern. Because people who destroy character don't do it once. It's a strategy. It's a pattern. It's a repeated behavior. And patterns eventually become visible. They're doing to someone else exactly what they did to you. Same tactics, same lies, same manipulation, same coordinated campaign, different target, identical strategy. And that repetition is their undoing. The person who believed their lies about you is now watching them tell similar lies about someone else. The ally who stood with them against you is now being targeted by them. The narrative that seemed so believable when it was about you suddenly looks suspicious when it's being repeated almost word for word about someone new. Wait, this sounds familiar. Didn't they say the same thing about, oh no, what if they were lying then too? What if I was wrong? What if I participated in destroying someone who was telling the truth? That realization is hitting people right now, and it's devastating. Not for you, for them. Because they have to face the fact that they were weaponized, they were used, they were recruited into a campaign of lies, and they participated willingly. The pattern is exposing itself. Other people are coming forward with similar stories. People who were also targeted. People who were also isolated. People who were also character assassinated by the same person or the same group using the same playbook. They did this to me too. I thought I was the only one. I thought it was my fault. I thought I was crazy. But now I see other people saying the same thing, the same lies, the same tactics, the same outcome. It wasn't me. It was them. It was always them. The pattern is undeniable. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize the tactics, you realize they've been used before, and they'll be used again. Once you understand the playbook, you see it playing out everywhere they go. This is how serial character assassins get exposed, not through one person defending themselves, through multiple people comparing notes and realizing they were all attacked by the same strategy. And right now, that comparison is happening. Those notes are being compared. That pattern is becoming crystal clear. And every person who participated in destroying you is starting to question what they believed and who they aligned with. The pattern doesn't just expose the lies. The pattern exposes the liar. And once people see someone for who they really are, they can't pretend anymore. The performance is over. The truth is out. One of the hardest things you had to do was stay silent. Every fiber of your being wanted to defend yourself, to explain, to correct the record, to make people understand what really happened. But something inside you knew better. Something told you to wait. Something protected you through silence. And now, you're seeing why. If you had defended yourself in the heat of the moment, your words would have been twisted. If you had explained your side when emotions were high, it would have been used against you. If you had fought back when the lies were fresh, you would have been pulled into their chaos and painted as the aggressor. Your silence protected your credibility. While they were spinning narratives, you were living in integrity. While they were performing for audiences, you were processing in private. While they were talking, you were healing. And that healing prepared you for this moment. Your silence also gave them rope. Enough rope to hang themselves. Because when you're not defending, explaining, or reacting, they have to keep talking. They have to keep creating content. They have to keep maintaining the narrative. And the more they talk, the more they reveal. The more they create, the more contradictions emerge. If you had engaged, you would have interrupted their self-destruction. But your silence allowed them to dig deeper, talk louder, and expose themselves more thoroughly than you ever could have exposed them. People are now going back and listening to what they said about you. They're reviewing old conversations with fresh eyes. They're reconsidering everything they were told. And in that reconsideration, your silence is speaking louder than your defense ever could have. They never defended themselves. They never fought back. They never tried to destroy the other person's reputation in return. They just left. They just removed themselves. That doesn't sound like the person they were described as. That sounds like someone who was actually telling the truth. Silence from a guilty person looks like hiding. Silence from an innocent person looks like dignity. And people are starting to recognize the difference. Your silence wasn't weakness. Your silence was wisdom. Your silence wasn't surrender. Your silence was strategy. Not manipulative strategy. Divine strategy. The kind that protects you from participating in your own character assassination and positions you for vindication when truth finally surfaces. Now, when you speak, if you choose to speak, people will listen differently because you didn't waste your words when emotions were high, because you didn't contaminate your truth with defensiveness, because you waited until the lies exhausted themselves and people were ready to hear reality. Silence was your protection, and that protection is about to become your platform. Everything they built their reputation on is crumbling. The image they created, the persona they performed, the credibility they constructed through lies is falling apart in real time. And you don't have to do anything but watch. Their own behavior is destroying what they tried so hard to build. The same mouth that lied about you is lying about others. The same manipulation they used to destroy you is being recognized now. The same tactics that worked in the dark are failing in the light. People are seeing them clearly for the first time, not through the filter of their performance, not through the lens of their narrative, but through the clarity that comes when patterns become undeniable. How did I not see this before? It's so obvious now. Everything they accuse that person of, they're actually guilty of themselves. Every lie they told was a confession. Every attack was projection. How did I miss this? People didn't miss it. They were deceived by it. And that's not their fault entirely. Skilled manipulators are convincing. Practiced liars are believable. People who've perfected their performance can fool almost anyone, at least for a season. But seasons change, and this season, the performance is failing. Their credibility is collapsing because credibility isn't built on performance. Credibility is built on consistency over time. And over time, their inconsistencies have piled up so high they can't be ignored anymore. Every institution that believed them is now questioning. Every person who defended them is now hesitating. Every ally who stood with them is now distancing. Because being associated with a proven liar damages your own credibility. And people are starting to protect themselves by creating space. The collapse isn't dramatic. It's not a single moment of exposure. It's a slow erosion of trust. It's a gradual withdrawal of belief. It's relationships cooling, opportunities disappearing, invitations stopping. It's the quiet realization spreading through communities that this person isn't who they claim to be. And in that collapse, your name is being reconsidered. Your story is being re-examined. Your truth is being given the space it was denied before. You're not being vindicated through your defense. You're being vindicated through their destruction of their own credibility. And that vindication is more powerful than anything you could have said, because it's not coming from you. It's coming from reality itself. Truth is patient. Truth waits for the lies to exhaust themselves. Truth watches credibility collapse under the weight of deception. And truth stands still while the liars dismantle everything they built on false foundations. The collapse is happening. And your silence positioned you perfectly to be standing when the dust settles. One of the most painful aspects of this entire situation isn't just what they did to you. It's what the people who believed them are now experiencing. The guilt, the shame, the realization that they participated in destroying someone who was innocent. They're carrying weight right now, heavy weight, because they believed the lies. They spread the narrative. They turned their back on you. They defended your attackers. They maybe even joined in the attack. And now they're realizing they were wrong. Some of them are reaching out. Quiet messages, apologetic tones. I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have questioned what I was told. I should have given you the benefit of the doubt. I was wrong, and I don't know if you can forgive me, but I need you to know I see the truth. Now, these messages are evidence, not just that you were right. That truth eventually surfaces. That lies eventually lose their power. That character assassination campaigns eventually get exposed. But here's what you need to know. Their guilt is not your responsibility. Their shame is not yours to carry. Their realization that they were wrong doesn't require you to immediately restore relationship, to pretend everything is fine, to absolve them of consequences. You can forgive them without trusting them immediately. You can acknowledge their apology without giving them access. You can accept their recognition of truth without inviting them back into your inner circle. Because some of them didn't just believe lies passively, some of them actively participated in your destruction. And participation has consequences. Realizing you were wrong doesn't automatically undo the damage you caused. There's a difference between someone who heard a lie and quietly distanced themselves versus someone who heard a lie and weaponized it against you. There's a difference between someone who was deceived versus someone who enjoyed your destruction. You have the right to discern who gets access to you moving forward. You have the right to protect yourself from people who proved they'll believe accusations without evidence. You have the right to establish boundaries with people who showed you they'll throw you away based on someone else's word. Their guilt might be genuine. Their apology might be sincere. But sincerity doesn't equal automatic restoration. Time will reveal who learned from their mistake and who's just embarrassed they backed the wrong person. Some of them are more upset that they look foolish than they are sorry for hurting you. Some of them want to apologize so they can feel better, not because they actually care about the pain they caused. Some of them want restoration because it benefits them, not because they value you. Discern. Protect yourself. Forgive freely. Trust slowly. And know that just because someone realizes they were wrong doesn't mean they've earned the right to be close to you again. You didn't chase vindication. You didn't campaign for your name to be cleared. You didn't force people to see the truth. You didn't manipulate circumstances to prove you were right. You simply lived in integrity and let time do what time does best, reveal. And now, vindication is finding you. Not because you demanded it, because truth demands itself. Not because you fought for it, because lies eventually fight themselves. Not because you needed people to believe you, because reality doesn't require belief to exist. Vindication is coming through their own exposure, not your explanation. Their behavior is telling the story you never had to tell. Their patterns are proving what you always knew. Their contradictions are confirming what you experienced. People are apologizing without you asking. Doors are opening without you knocking. Opportunities are returning without you chasing. Because when character is proven, favor follows. When truth surfaces, alignment happens naturally. This vindication feels different than the vindication you might have imagined. You probably thought it would feel triumphant. You probably thought you'd feel satisfaction. You probably thought there would be a moment of "I told you so" that would feel good. But it doesn't feel the way you expected, because real vindication isn't about winning. Real vindication is about truth, finally getting the space it deserves. And when you're walking in truth, you don't need to gloat. You don't need to celebrate their downfall. You don't need to remind everyone you were right. You just feel peace, relief, a quiet sense of finally, not because you're happy they're suffering, but because you're glad the truth is no longer suffocating under their lies. Vindication isn't giving you energy to attack them. Vindication is giving you permission to move forward, to rebuild, to restore, to step into the next season without the weight of false accusations hanging over your name. You didn't have to chase vindication because vindication was always going to find you. Truth has a way of surfacing. Light has a way of exposing. Reality has a way of correcting false narratives. And now that it's happening, you're realizing vindication was never the goal. Healing was the goal. Freedom was the goal. Truth was the goal. Vindication is just a byproduct of staying faithful to those goals when everyone else wanted you to abandon them. You're being proven right without having to prove anything. And that's the most powerful form of vindication there is. Now that truth is surfacing. Now that vindication is arriving, now that people are seeing what really happened, you're facing a new responsibility. The responsibility of what you do with this moment. Because how you handle vindication will define your character more than how you handled the attack. You could use this moment to destroy them the way they tried to destroy you. You have ammunition now. You have proof. You have witnesses. You have people who are ready to turn against them the same way they turned against you. You could launch your own character assassination campaign, and it would probably work because now you have truth on your side. But is that who you are? Is that the person you want to become? Is that the legacy you want to build? You have a choice right now. You can become what you hated, or you can become proof that hurt people don't have to hurt people back. This moment is revealing who you really are, not who you were when you were attacked, who you are now that you have power. Because anyone can be kind when they're powerless. Anyone can be gracious when they have no options. But being kind when you have power, being gracious when you have the ability to destroy, that's character. The responsibility of vindication is choosing mercy over revenge, choosing to tell the truth without weaponizing it, choosing to protect others from what you experienced without becoming the very thing you fought against. You can expose the truth without destroying the person. You can tell your story without launching an attack campaign. You can set the record straight without seeking to ruin them completely. This doesn't mean protecting them from consequences. This doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. This doesn't mean allowing them to continue harming others. Truth should be told. Patterns should be exposed. People should be warned. But there's a difference between protective exposure and vengeful destruction. There's a difference between telling the truth and weaponizing the truth. There's a difference between justice and revenge. Justice protects others. Revenge satisfies yourself. Justice is about preventing future harm. Revenge is about inflicting past pain. Justice seeks accountability. Revenge seeks suffering. You're responsible for which one you choose. The world is watching how you handle this. The people who doubted you are observing how you respond now that you've been proven right. The ones who hurt you are waiting to see if you'll become them. Will you use your vindication to heal or to harm? Will you use your platform to protect or to punish? Will you use your truth to liberate or to destroy? This is the test, not the attack. Because the attack revealed what was done to you. But your response to vindication reveals who you are. Choose wisely. Choose with integrity. Choose to be the person who breaks cycles instead of continuing them. They tried to steal everything from you. Your reputation, your relationships, your opportunities, your peace, your joy, your future. They took and took and took, and they thought they could get away with it forever. But restoration is coming. Not just vindication, restoration. The return of what was stolen. The rebuilding of what was destroyed. The renewal of what was lost. Relationships that were poisoned are being purified. People who distanced themselves are returning. But not all of them. Only the real ones. Only the ones who learned something from this season. Only the ones who proved, through their absence and their return, that they're worthy of your trust again. And you know what? Some relationships won't be restored, and that's okay. Because restoration isn't about getting everything back. Restoration is about getting the right things back. Some people needed to exit your life. Some relationships were contaminated long before the attack happened. Some connections were holding you back from your destiny. The attack just accelerated the separation that needed to happen anyway. So don't mourn every relationship that doesn't return. Don't grieve every door that stays closed. Don't chase every person who walked away. Because restoration is strategic. It's not bringing back everything. It's bringing back what belongs. Opportunities that were blocked are opening. Doors that were closed are unlocking. Invitations that were rescinded are being extended again. Because when character is proven, favor returns. When truth surfaces, alignment happens. You're not going back to where you were before the attack. You're going forward to where you were always meant to be. The attack delayed you, but it didn't derail you. The lies slowed you down, but they didn't stop you. Restoration isn't just about getting back what you lost. Restoration is about gaining what you were always supposed to have. New relationships, better opportunities, deeper wisdom, stronger character, clearer vision. You went through the fire, and you didn't just survive. You were refined. You were purified. You were strengthened. And now you're stepping into the fullness of who you were always meant to become. The restoration is bigger than the attack. The comeback is more powerful than the setback. The future is brighter than the past ever was. They tried to steal your destiny. Instead, they prepared you for it. They tried to destroy your future. Instead, they developed your character. They tried to end your story. Instead, they started your greatest chapter. Restoration is here, not just of what was lost, of what was always promised. You didn't just survive character assassination, you graduated from it. You gained something through this experience that most people never gain. The ability to see clearly. You can spot manipulation now. You recognize the tactics. You see the patterns. You identify the red flags. You understand how character assassins operate because you studied one up close. That wisdom is priceless. That discernment will protect you for the rest of your life. That clarity will save you from future attacks because you'll recognize them before they fully develop. You learned who people really are under pressure. You learned who stays when the narrative turns against you. You learned who questions what they're told and who blindly accepts it. You learned the difference between loyal and convenient. You learned that proximity doesn't equal loyalty. Some people are close to you because of what they get from you, not because of who you are. And when the attack came, they showed you exactly where their loyalty ended. You learned that everyone who smiles at you isn't for you. Everyone who calls you friend isn't faithful. Everyone who celebrates you publicly won't defend you privately. You learned discernment, real discernment, the kind that can't be taught in a class or learned from a book, the kind that only comes through experience, the kind that's forged in the fire of betrayal. You also learned your own strength. You didn't know you could survive what you survived. You didn't know you could stand when everyone walked away. You didn't know you could rebuild after total destruction. But you did. And now, you know what you're capable of. You learned that your peace doesn't depend on people's opinions. Your worth isn't determined by their lies. Your identity isn't shaken by their attacks. You learned that you are who God says you are, not who they tried to make you seem. You learned compassion for others who are going through similar attacks. You understand now what it feels like to be believed guilty with no evidence. You know the pain of being condemned without trial. You recognize the isolation that comes with character assassination, and that compassion will drive you to protect others, to speak up when you see it happening, to defend the defenseless, to be the voice for those who are being silenced the way you were silenced. The wisdom you gained through betrayal is the very thing that will prevent future betrayals. The lessons you learned through attack are the very things that will protect you from future attacks. You didn't just survive, you evolved, and that evolution is permanent. Their truth is out. The lies have been exposed. The patterns have been revealed. The mask has been removed. Everything they tried to hide is now visible for the world to see. But this moment isn't about them anymore. This moment is about you. You've been vindicated. You've been proven right. You've been restored. Now what? What do you do with this moment? What do you build with this season? How do you move forward? You walk in your truth, not their truth about you, not the lies they told, not the narrative they created. Your truth, the truth of who you really are, the truth of what you're really called to do, the truth of where you're really going. Their truth coming out was never the end goal. Their truth coming out was just the clearing of the path, the removal of the obstacle, the opening of the door. But you still have to walk through it. Don't get stuck in vindication. Don't camp out in, "I told you so." Don't build your identity around being proven right, because that's still making it about them. Make it about you. Make it about your purpose. Make it about your calling. Make it about the people you're meant to impact and the legacy you're meant to build. You didn't survive character assassination just to spend the rest of your life talking about character assassination. You survived it so you could move beyond it, so you could build something they could never destroy, so you could become someone they could never diminish. Their truth is out. Now walk in yours. Walk in the truth that you are stronger than you thought. Walk in the truth that you are more resilient than you knew. Walk in the truth that you are anointed, appointed, and assigned to something greater than their lies could ever touch. Walk in the truth that what was meant to destroy you actually developed you. What was meant to end you actually elevated you. What was meant to break you actually built you. Their truth is out, and it's ugly, but your truth is out too, and it's beautiful. Your truth is that you are a chosen one. You are marked for greatness. You are destined for impact. You are called to legacy. And no lie, no attack, no character assassination campaign can change that. They tried to destroy your character, but character can't be destroyed. It can only be revealed. And yours has been revealed as unshakable, unmovable, and undeniable. Now their own truth is coming out. Their character is being revealed. Their patterns are being exposed. And while that's happening, you don't have to watch. You don't have to gloat. You don't have to celebrate their downfall. You just have to keep walking, keep building, keep growing, keep becoming. Because the best response to being vindicated isn't revenge. It's rising. It's moving forward. It's stepping into everything they tried to keep you from. Their truth is out. Now walk in yours. And let that walk be so powerful, so purposeful, so undeniable that it becomes the final word in a story they tried to write but could never finish. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your truth. Walk in it.